time.
Okay, the recorder is on.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Yelena, and I'm going to be the Watson Analytics administrator, and the software that you're going to use for the rest of the course assignments. So today, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to introduce you to the software and to help you get started. So let's hopefully the slide. Okay, here it is. So here is today's agenda. I'm going to introduce what Watson Analytics is, and we're going to discuss accepting invitation if you have not already. We're going to discuss the requirement, the course that you have to take, and then I'll talk about 3Ds of Watson Analytics, refining data, natural language questions, predictive models, and then I'm gonna show you how to present your finding in a display, how to save your work, and the documentation useful resources. So now let's move on. What is Watson Analytics? So mainly it helps the business understand their data through visualizations and a presentation. You basically can type in the human language question and you get your answer. And there is very little or no learning curve. It's very intuitive and user-friendly. And I guess I'm gonna need a volunteer tonight. I'm gonna need somebody to count how many lines of code will I write over the whole evening. All right. So now let's move on. As you may recall, back in 2011, there was a Jeopardy game where the machine was playing, Watson machine was playing with two contestants, right, and how it beat them. So here you can watch this video and you can read more about the article, but that's at the beginning of Watson Analytics, so to speak. Let's continue. So a lot of you have received the invitation email by now. If you had an account under my subscription before, then you should continue using it. Then you did not receive an invitation. Otherwise, if you did not have an account under my subscription, I attempted to create you an account. I used the email in Leo as a first attempt, and if that failed, I contacted you and you need to provide me an alternative email. Several students, several of you still owe me an alternative email. So you want to check your junk folder if you don't see your invitation, right? Now, this is how the invitation email looks like. So this is just to give you an example. An email has a button, you click on it, or alternatively you can copy paste the link in a browser. Then what you'll do is there is a short registration form that you fill out. Then you're gonna get another email with the code that you'll need to enter. So it's a several-step process, and all of you hopefully received a copy of instructions on how to do that. And I see that some of you already accepted invitation. Great job. But you have not, after this session, go back and check your email, right? Make sure that you have your invitation and accept it. Because if you wait on it for a while, the invitation may expire. So you want to do that.
Followed by pound.
What's that? All right. So this is a course that you have to take, and you need to submit the course. You need to submit the certificate of completion as a proof. This is a web page, right? And you're going to have a copy of the slides after this session. So here is a web page. You need to create a free cognitive class account on that web page and take the course. Now, very important. At the end of the course, there is a test. You get 1 hour, and you have only one attempt, right? So you have the test, and also you have some questions at the end of each module. The course consists of several modules, and at the end of each module you have a test. Those tests at the end of the module, they are 50% of the course grade, and the test another 50%. The questions at the end of the modules are timeless. So you can take as much time as you like, but the test is timed. You have 1 hour. And the test has about 24 to 25 questions, something like that. It's multiple choice and true and false, but the good news are you have 2 attempts on the multiple choice. Well, 1 attempt on true and false. So, you want to stay away from using the browser back button while taking the test because your answers might not be recorded. You need to remember to submit the test before 1 hour time limit elapses, right? And you want to make sure you're taking a test where you have the stable internet connection, because if you get disconnected, unfortunately, there is no way to get back in, and then we need to talk about alternatives, right? So let me show you. This is how the course interface looks like. This here, they look like buttons, but they're not real buttons, they're decorative. So to navigate, you need to use the menu in the left panel. So you've got the videos, you have the transcripts for most of the videos, and I would strongly recommend that you read the transcripts in addition to watching the videos. So as you notice here, you have like 8 or 7 modules. At the end of which module you have to do the questions, because they're worth half of the course grade, and there is only 1 attempt to pass, and the passing score is 80%. What I recommend you to do is take screenshots, especially of the questions that you miss, because yes, there is no way to retake the test, but if you have to discuss the alternatives, let me show you something. Suppose that I missed a question. This is the true or false questions that I missed, right? I put true and this is wrong. So here, what I'm trying to say is that I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that this is a wrong answer. So if I have to retake a test by creating a different account, I'm going to know that the answer to question 24 is going to be false, right? So when you do the test, if you feel like you might not be doing well, make sure that you take screenshots. They're going to help you. But in general, remember, only 1 shot to take a test. To retake a test, you will have to log in as a different user, but let's not worry about it. All of you should be prepared to pass it on the first time, right? Let's aim to pass the test on the first time. Now, after you accepted an invitation to Watson Analytics, this is a web page that you're going to use to log in. And what I would suggest is add this to your bookmarks. Bookmark this page. Then you have a sign in button at the top, right? You click on it and you will be redirected to here. This is a login page. You need to enter your IBM ID, which is an email where you got your invitation, and then a password. Now, attention students who had an account, who already had an account, right? If you don't remember a password, this is what you need to do. This is a login page, right? You're gonna click on sign in on this login page. After you enter your IBM ID, this screen, see this? Forgot. If you forgot your password, this is where you click. And then you follow through the steps, right? You would need to have the email open, the same email that you used for your IBM ID, right? So there is a password reset option. But if you, at any time, if you don't remember your IBM ID, you're going to contact me, because I have a tracking for all accounts starting from fall 2016, right? Now let's continue, and I'm going to get to the software. I'm going to get to application in a few, but this is how the landing page is going to look like, and I'm going to show you in a real, I'm going to show it in application soon. But so here, this is a landing page, and I want you to remember this. This is a workflow: data, discover, display. So we collect our data. Discover means that we're going to do our visualizations, we're going to build our models, and display means that we present our findings, right? So just remember this: data, discover, display, 3Ds, right? So on the data page, there is just the data, or I'll show you how to refine the data, how to add the fields and so on, right? But this is what you see on the data page. and I'll get to it. But another thing to remember is that you have each tile represents a data set, and you can sort the tiles, and I'll show you, right? So if you are asked which sorting options you have, remember you can sort the data by name, last modified, quality, and type, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll show you. But now, this is the rule. Before I show you the application, we need to make an important rule here. You're going to forget that the back button in a browser exists. You're not going to use the back button anymore while you're using this application, because you may get unexpected results. Instead, you're going to use the menu. You're going to navigate through the menu, right? So, and I'll show you how to get to the help menu. The help is available on every single screen, almost every single screen, and I'll show you that. But here, this is very important, and I was going to say that if I'm repeating something several times, hint, hint, it could be on a test. Now, see this data, I add my new data, right, and I can I can add, I can delete, and I can even append. Discover.
Your entry is not valid, or the meeting has not started yet.
What's that?
Re-enter your access code or meeting number, followed by pound.
So, this is a discover, right? The discover is basically you explore your data, and display you present your findings. Right, so let me go ahead and actually start sharing my screen. Share my screen, and oops, so this is the instructions, right? Watson Analytics invitation, that's not what we're looking at, but in the meantime, please make sure that you have a copy of this. It's in a classroom. If you have not done so already, if you have not accepted your invitation after this class, please do so. So, while you are in the middle of accepting Watson Analytics invitation, you have a screen where you'll have an option to choose 4 files from the data catalog. So please do so, right? Please do so. And when you do that, you're going to see, for a while, it's going to say processing. And then you're going to see the 4 data sets, right? So now let's go back. So here I'm on the data screen right now. Discover display. Data screen shows my data sets in the right panel. Each data set is represented as a tile. Alternatively, I can do the list view. See here, I'm toggling between tile and list. Now, here are my sorting options, right? I can sort by name, right? Or I can sort it by last modified. There is no option to sort it by the owner. Remember, we cannot sort it by the owner here because I'm the owner. This is a personal folder, right? So this is files that I have. Shared, it means that everything that's shared with me, right? Yes, another thing is here, when you just get the account, you're gonna get these little pop-ups. So this is basically an explanation of what these buttons are. So I click got it.
Your entry is not valid, or the meeting has not started yet. Re-enter your access code or meeting number, followed by pound.
Alright, so personal and shared. If you click on a shared, expand shared, see this. This is what I did to help you. I expand shared, see this, more data sets. So this
Thanks
is
for using
data
WebEx.
that you can
Visit our website at www.webex.com.
This is the data that you may use for analysis. To make it simple for you, I created this shared folder and I put the data sets in here, right? So you have several options. You may choose anything from here for your assignments, unless the instructions say that you cannot, right? And in the classroom, I put the datasets descriptions too, and I'll show you where that is. But see here, you have several options to add data. You have, when you click on new data, you can do the sample data, right? So this is a catalog. And basically, to add any data from this catalog, what you do is you just click here, right? Or see here, I click here and I click on import, and this will be it. What it does is the data gets added to my personal area if I don't have it there already, because you cannot have more than one copy of the same data set added. I probably already have it added, but you may you just select the data that you're interested in, right, from the catalog and click import. Another option, I can import the data from my desktop. So what I have to do is I have to do this import local file. Very important, to import the data from my desktop, I don't need to do any security settings. There is no need to set up the special connection setting, anything like that. I just click local file and I just hit browse. I hit browse, and then I can just find my data set. In this case, I saved it on the desktop, and this is a risk student. So the data tracks the information on student GPA and on their tuition and the AP test that they took, and if a student is at risk of the academic failure. So here is my data set that I selected, and I'm going to hit import right now. When you do that, you want to make sure that you are importing data into the personal folder. Now, take a look at this. It put my file at
your entry is not valid, or the meeting has not started yet.
Now, take a look at
re-enter your access code or meeting number, followed by pound.
Oops. What's going on? All right. Take a look at this here. I'm trying to import the risk student data set. The data set is in Excel format. The file has more than one tab. When the file has more than one tab, Watson Analytics lets me choose which tab I want to import. So in this case, I want to do the first one. Yeah, did somebody raise the hand? Guys, if you have questions, would you mind to put them in the chat, please, okay? And I'll pick them up. So here, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to select the first sheet here, and I'm going to hit confirm, okay? Well, the reason I got this message is because I had two tabs in the Excel file. Now, the little globe is spinning. It means that my data is processing. But what does a processing mean? It means that Watson Analytics is trying to find some relationships in my data. It's analyzing data in every column, trying to find anything, data quality and the relationships. Alright, speaking of data quality, see this 69%? It's checking every single column, and it's checking for the skewness, and it's checking for the missing values, and that's how it's determining the score, right? So let me change the sort order, because I want this data, I want this to be at the top. So I'm going to sort it by last modified, because I want to see it, right? I want it to be here. Another alternative you have is this. You click on more sample data sets, and this is what you need to do. This is in a shared folder, and you have a view only permission. So what you need, you click on this ellipsis here, right? And you're gonna have these options. You're gonna have refine, and you're gonna have export. So one option is to select refine, and this is gonna be, it looks similar to Excel. Now what I have to do is I can go here and I can go save as, and I'm going to save it in my personal area as a copy. There we go, right? It's saving it to my personal area. Another option I had was I could go ahead and download it, and then I could upload it the way I showed you the first file, right? Sometimes you may think it might be taking a little while, but make sure that you don't hit the back button, right? You stay patient and wait for it to save. Now, when I have something open, you're gonna see it here. See that this is an error, and this is a menu. So this here means that I have the file open. And if you see an asterisk next to the file name, it means that I have some unsaved changes. Now, to close this file, I can just click on X here. And I'm going to be redirected to the landing page. This is a landing page, and right now, this here shows that most sample datasets folder is active. I need to navigate to the personal. Yes, we're going to make a very important rule here. Nobody will save data to the root of shared folder, because anything that you put here is visible to everybody. Everyone in the system, right? More than 480 users may see it, delete it, do anything with it, right? It's accessible to everybody, and it's going to be a big mess. So I pay attention to this. Anything that ends up where it should not would be deleted without notice, right? You may need to contact me. I have a special way to handle it, right? So let's go back to personal, and also let's in parallel, let's keep looking at the slide just to make sure that I am pointing out everything that is important, right? So we talked about adding data, right? We talked about this, and I have to explain to you in which format you can add the files, right? Mainly, you'll do Excel and CSV. But when you do Microsoft Excel, make sure that you follow the certain formatting, that there are no totals, no subtotals, that you don't have anything like colors, no special formatting. You want it to be plain table in a tabular plain format. So here I outlined what cannot be done. For instance, you cannot have the file to be, you don't want to be password protected. You want to make sure that each column has a name, and the name must be descriptive, right? You want to make sure that the values in the same column have the same data type, right? So what I did for you, I put examples of what not to do, so to speak. Here is a problem because you have a special formatting. See, there's a drop downs, you have these colors. This is a problem. Here in this example, we have a different problem. A1, A2, A3, they're not descriptive. I'm not going to know how to ask my questions about data. Here, I'm having another problem. See this? The age. It's inconsistent data type. 45, teenager. Well, I won't be able to apply the Binion if I want to convert this field as age range, right? For instance, I won't be able to do that. It's because my data type is inconsistent, right? And this is an error message that you may get if you're trying to import the data set that you already have. Like if I try to import the risk students data again, this is the error that I'm going to get, and I would have to change name. And here, this is an error that I reproduced. It's because I have more than one tab. Speaking of this, the test used to have a question about this, and according to the answer to the test question, you can import data only from the first tab, but this functionality to choose the tab was added after the test was edited for the last time. So if you see the question on a test, right, the test answer is that you can use only the first tab, but in reality, right now you can choose which tab you want to import, right? Now we're gonna talk about the refining data. Let's go back. And what does it mean to refine? I can rename the column. I can hide certain columns. I can filter data. I can add the calculation, right? And what I could also do, I can create data groups and hierarchies, right? So now let me minimize this. Let's go here. And here is my data, risk students, right? What I could do is I could click on this ellipsis and I'm gonna hit refine. Now, few important things that I want you to remember. When you create a calculation, you are adding a column to the data set. Very important, you're adding a column, right? Now, this is an original data set, right, that I imported. What I want to do right now is let me save it as a copy. I'm gonna go save as, and I'm gonna do risk students refined. And the reason is because what if I change something that I did not want to do, right? I'm gonna have a backup. All right. This just saved the copy. Now, if you see that little asterisk here, it means that your latest change is not saved. Right? Your latest change is not saved. Now, notice that this little dashed line, right? But here there is no dashed line between New York and the county. What's happening is that Watson Analytics identified the hierarchy. So it can see that these are the counties inside the New York state. These are the counties inside the New York state. And this will be very important when you do the analysis, because this will allow you to do the drill down. You can look at the data by the state, and then you right click on the state, and you can see it by county within the state. So Watson Analytics tries to identify relationships like this. See this? You have a state and you have a county within the state. Well, apparently this data set, it only has a subset of data for New York, but if you had another state, you would have had counties inside that state. Variables, columns here, right? Column gender is categorical, right? So if I click here, I see male, female. Those are the two values, right, of a gender. I could filter my data to see only males. I just make a check mark here. This is how you filter. You can only see males. And here you see what was selected. And then if I change my mind, I want to see females, I can click invert. That's one way to do it. Now I change my mind again, I can click on clear. Right? That will remove the filter. Unclick. Now let's look at the column. You can also look at the column properties, right? So let's see. Let's look at the. See, here are your additional columns, and this is a risk column. By default, this is going to be a target. Watson Analytics, it's trying to decide what variable are you going to predict in your when you build a model. So let me click here. You click on this ellipsis here to see the properties. See this? I select properties, and I see the column name. And here, this is how you rename. You would click here to rename the column. Type, well, text. It's because it says at risk or not at risk. Here, it means that if I want to filter the data by this column, I would have to select the value. Now here, count distinct, that will make more sense when we look at the visualization, when I show you how the aggregation works. Sort, if you want to, you can define the sorting on a column. You can choose to sort the data by column. Use as a driver. So what this basically means that I want to use my column in my predictions, and I want this column to be the default target variable. So my visualization, Watson will aim to predict this thing here, at risk or not at risk. And this data type is categorical or nominal, right? So now, let me, oops. So here, look at this. I can click on the errors to navigate to other columns. When I click on the error, I'm navigating to other columns. Notice this here. See this? Some of the fields have an option slider. Slider means that I can select the values range when I filter, and I'll show you. See this here? For instance, the number of absences, I can slide this here. I can filter data just by sliding it. For some fields, I have an option. I can select the value or I can use the slider. Now, what I could do is here, let's say I want to create a calculated column. To do this, I click on this plus sign, right? And what do I want to do? I want to do the calculation. And here I have to name it, right? Let's say adjusted cost. Can we do this? Adjusted cost, right? And now what I'm going to do is here I want to pick the cost, right? I want to pick the student cost. So let me search for it. Student cost. See this? This is a student cost. And I'm going to subtract 1000, right? So I'm going to call it adjusted cost, and I'm going to click done. Right? So now remember this. Whenever I create a calculation, I'm adding a new column. It's called a column, and it's added at the end of the columns list. When I create another calculation, I can use this calculation. I can use this column inside calculations for other column. I can use functions inside the calculations. I can write if statement. I can do count distinct, I can do count, right? So just remember that you can use, when you create a calculation, you're adding a new column. And the calculation can use a column, can be based on a column, or it can be based on a calculated column, or it can use the functions, right? Now, something else very important is data groups. And data groups, you'll see them referred as Binion in some books. It's the Binion discretization. Yeah, but Watson Analytics, it's called data group, and I'll show you. But first, let's save the work. Look at this. Take a look at this. So this is a menu, right? When you just tap on the menu, by default, it's picking up the first item, the first option. When you tap on this menu, it's taking up the first option, which is save, and it's saving. So while it's saving, just remember, never hit the back button, right? So we went over the properties, right? I'll show you the data quality score in a few. I showed you the calculation, and we're going to look at the groups. Important. You have the variables are numeric and categoric. For the numeric columns, the bins are predefined. For the categoricals are not, right? So it's done saving. Now we're going to create a Binion. So take a look at what I'm doing here. I'm going to do this on a plus. Click on a plus. I'm going to select data groups. Now here I want to select the field, but I don't want to select the state because it does not make sense. I have only one state, right? Instead, let me select. All right. So let's do the numeric first. Let's do the student GPA first. See this? What happens is that Watson analyzes the data for me, and well, for some reason 0.462 is the maximum GPA. Well, it's not true, but it's highly possible that we have somewhere there is a invalid data maybe. And also we don't know on what scale we're looking at, right? So now let's name this. The data group, right, it's creating a new column, and I'm going to name it as GPA range, right? By default, I have 5 bins, and the distribution is equal, right? The range is equal. Ultimately, I could do custom, and I could adjust these boundary points, right? So now I'm gonna hit done. So now remember, if you're looking at the numeric column, right, the Binion is predefined. For category columns, it's not. So I'm going to do the categoric now, and I'm gonna do data group, and here, not the state, but let me look at the county. Let's look at the county. And I'm gonna say state region, right? I'm just gonna call it state regions, and now I want to create the groups. I want to put regions into groups, perhaps, right? Usually I would be looking at the map and group adjacent regions together, but for the purpose of this demonstration, let's just do it. So now I'm gonna hit new group, and I have to name it region 1, right? I'm gonna name it region 1. Also, it's important to mention that what you see here, those are all values in that column. Those are all available values in that column. They're listed here. So now I created region 1. I'm going to create another one. I call it region 2, right? And I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to call it region 3. Now, to add this thing to the group, I can just do this. I click, and see that this is my first group. I highlight the group, right? I highlight the group here, and then when I click, it's going to be added to that group. I have one item in the first group, one item in the third, right? And to remove, I would just click on the minus sign, remove, right? Each region, see this? Each value here can belong only to one and only one group. And if I'm not careful, if I have something in this left column here that I don't assign in a group, if I don't assign something to the group, I'm going to end up with missing values. I'm going to end up with missing values in my new column. It's just something for you to keep this in mind, right? So here I have 3 regions, see this? And these are the values that I have not done what I was supposed to do. I'm going to click done. I'm going to show you what's going to happen here. And, well, it works as expected, right? It works as expected. I'm going to see this. I got missing values here. Uh-oh, do I like it? No. It shows me that I'm not done. So to go back, this is what you do. You click here. Now you click on ellipsis. And here you go to the properties. And in the properties, you see edit data group. Edit data group. That's how you return to editing. And then you need to just go ahead and finish it, right? See? This is what you do. I just randomly put. I put it randomly. Quick, right? Okay, let's do it done. Now, I don't really like what I'm doing here. So what I could do is I could just hide this column, right? I could go ahead and hide it. To do that, I would have to go back here. This is my list of columns, and I'll have to scroll down, find it, and uncheck it, right? So what did I call it? I called it something like a range, right? Scroll down, and I called it the region, state region. See this? I don't like it, so I can go ahead and uncheck it. That way, it won't show in my visualizations that I use this data set for, right? I don't like it, I uncheck it. Now, on the other hand, what is this? Take a look at this. What is this? What do you think is this? This is a hierarchy, right? Remember, I was telling you that Watson Analytics identified the counties within a state, right? So that's one example. Another example of possible hierarchy would be you have years, you have months within a year, you have day within a month, hour within a day, and so on, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this. Those are what I created, right? Usually you would not, but I'll go ahead and uncheck. Okay. Now uncheck this, but you can keep. You may want to. Sometimes you may want to keep the hierarchy, but all right. Let's leave it as is for right now. And I'm going to close this. I'm going to save it, and I have to show you the. Before we leave this page, I need to show you the data quality. So basically, Watson Analytics is looking at the skewness of values. Like for example, let's look. For example, the state, right? I only have New York. How useful is this field in analysis? Normally, you would remove it. If everybody is from New York, then state doesn't really make sense, right? So now let's look at the data metrics. Here it is. Oops. Yeah. So, and we can close this calculation. See this? It's showing me low quality. It's because I have only one state. Now here, this means that this is a unique identifier. I have a single record, right? It means that I have a single record per county for some reason. In this data set, I have a single record per county. That's what it ended up. Anyway, now, this is high quality. Why? Because I have almost even distribution of males and females. This is a low quality. It's because almost everyone is not an athlete. So it's skewed, right? See this? This is close to normal distribution. And if it's not normal, then you're going to have a lower quality score. We don't have any missing values at this point, right? But see here, there is no data quality score because this is a calculated column. I calculated the adjusted cost. So now we are ready to do analysis. And to return to the landing page, you can do the following. You can click on this here and select this from the menu. Alternatively, you can just tap on the logo. That will return you to the landing page. So I have a data on the students, right? And I want to find out how do I know what drives the risk, right? What is the profile of people who are more likely to be at risk for academic failure? I can ask, there are several ways to ask my questions about data. One way, I can type in my question here, right? What drives risk? When I do this, Watson Analytics will search all data sets that I'm able to access. It will search all data sets that I'm able to access. That includes my personal folder and all of the subfolders in a shared folder that I am allowed to access. And see, it took some time to analyze. And here, these are the starting points. And for the starting points, I'm getting the possible visualization that I might be interested in and the dataset name where the data is pulled from. See this? I have a risk student and I have a risk student refined in my personal area, and I searched both of them. Oh, see this? What is this? Where does this come from? It's coming from another data set that I have in a shared folder, right? So this is one reason I don't want you guys to be saving the files in the root folder here, because it will be available, whatever you save in the root area, right? Let's close this. Whatever you save here will be available. It will come up in all searches. We don't want everybody in the system to access it, right? We don't know whose work it is. So you can do it here, type a question here, or you can type your question on the discovery tab, right? You can type your question on discovery tab, and it will also search all data sets that you can access, right? Okay. So if you type, just remember that this is very important, because I'm going to show you something else. So depending where I type my question, right? Location where I type my question drives the result that I'm gonna get. Let's say this way. So here I'm again I'm running the search against all data sets. On the other hand, if I do this, if I click on risk student refined, and when I type here what drives risk, when I do this and I hit the enter key, I'm searching this specific data set. I'm only searching the data set that I clicked on, right? I'm not searching all data sets that I can access. Very important. To this, anything I search for here is only ran against the data set I clicked on. Now, let's select what drives risk. I'm going to look at the drivers. This is a spiral visualization model, right? Now, this is called the data tray. This is called the data tray. Notice that similarity, this is similar to what you saw in a refined interface. However, if you do create a calculation here, right, if you do create a calculation here, keep in mind that it will be available only for this discovery workbook. It will not be available for everything else that you create from that same data. It won't be available in any other discovery workbooks that you create. It will only be available in this workbook. All right. So the reason I'm getting the store is because I ended up creating another account just for the testing purposes, since there were some changes to the login process, right? So now I log in, I pretend to be you, right? And when you log in for the first time and try to access the visualizations, you're gonna get this little tour. So basically here, risk is your target variable. At any time, you may have only one default target variable, right? You may have only one default target variable at any time. Just one, remember. Now, here, see this? This is how you open it. This is called the data tray. And here, if I hide the columns here, right? If I hide the columns here, it will not be available only in this workbook, but it will be available in other workbooks that I use, right? It will be available in other workbooks that I built from the same data. So now let's close this. Now here, see this is the visualization, and what does the driver mean? The driver is basically, well, you can say a predictor. Absences, for example. Absences by itself predict if the student is at risk for academic failure, number of absences. One driver means that I'm only looking at absences. Two drivers means I'm looking at the combination of two columns. And what I could do here, I can toggle. I can uncheck this, so I only see the drivers, I only see the predictors, which is single column. See this? I'm looking at absences, and this is I think it's a health center visit, the club membership, your GPA, and so on, right? Alternatively, I can keep on unchecking. This is a relatively new functionality. Earlier, you could not toggle. Now, here it is. The closer my pin to the center, the stronger is my predictor. And I can hover over this pin, and it's going to show me the predictors at this point. But unfortunately, I see a lot of overlaps. I see a lot of overlapping. So that's one reason you want to uncheck. So that way you can read that. It's easier to read. You see less too. Right? Now, what's happening here in the right panel? Watson Analytics is trying to decide what else I might be interested in based on what I have in here in the left panel. what I could do here, I could click here the plus sign. I could do that, and it will open another visualization to show me additional details on the relationship between risk of academic failure and number of absences. Right? Now I can do it. I can analyze it further. Multiplier. So multiplier is basically, suppose that I want to see this visualization for gender. I want to know if the gender has an impact on academic success, perhaps, right? So what I did was I dragged and dropped the gender here, right? This is called a multiplier. So I see a separate plot per gender, male and female, and I think there is roughly no impact, right? Approximately the same height. Now what you need to do is, so this is a discovery workbook. You need to give it a name, and I'm gonna go click here and I'm gonna do save as, and I'm gonna save it as risk, student risk, and I'm gonna call it discovery. Right? Now this is important. You cannot have two discovery workbook with the same name. Right? Okay, I'm saving it, and now what you also need to do is, I would strongly recommend that you rename each tab. You're going to rename it, and I'm going to call it a risk driver, and I'll show you why. Okay, now we have to rename. We're gonna click here, and we're gonna select rename. Oops, and I want to call it absent, and I'm gonna do gender, right? There we go. So now I'm going to save it. And next one, I want to look at the tree. I want to look at the decision tree for my for the risk, right? So we have to look at the decision tree, and I bet you're gonna see some questions on it. The target variable can be numeric or categorical, right? So let's look at the categorical variable first. So let me just put on risk, right? So now I want to see the model. What is the predictive model for risk? And I can bet you're going to get some questions on decision trees. Now, here I have two views. I have decision rules and I have a decision tree view. So here I'm looking right now at the students' profiles who are more likely not at risk. So this is the first category. It says here if the student is absent no more than once, and then this is a health center visit, right? And the student is member of one club, and this is the average GPA, right? So this is a profile of students who are not at risk, 100%, right? And I have how many records? 1011 records fall into this group of students. Now I keep on scrolling down, and I get more. I get less rather, right? This here, the predictive strength rather is gonna be less. It's gonna drop towards the end. See this? Ultimately, I can check who is at risk. Look, I just flip this. So I think this really tells the truth, because if you're in an online class, an absence is equivalent to not participating in a course discussion. So usually, if a student does not participate for more than 4 weeks, right? You know what that means, right? So see this here, absent 4 times, more than 4 times, right? So 5 or more, 100% risk academic failure, and we have 74 students in this profile. So here 1 to 4 absences, and you see that no club memberships and so on. So this is a profile of students who fall into this category, and this is the 79. It's a predictive strength, right? So now I can read the rules, or I can go back to the tree view, and this gets interesting because we need to know how to navigate this. So we can zoom in. We use this here to zoom in, right? And I need to show you, I need to get to this is called the root node. Oops. The very top node is called the root node. Oh, take a look at this. Oh, see, the nodes can be expanded and collapsed. But let me do this. So now I see the whole. See, this here shows me where in a tree I am. So let's do this. Let's minimize this, right? Which I can minimize this. I can minimize this. So here are all records. I'm starting here, right? Now to traverse the tree, I'm looking at the number of absences. If I'm absent more than 4 times, that's it. This is the leaf node. I'm at risk. That's it. There is no further way to go, right? If I'm absent 1 to 4 times, I continue. I'm looking if I'm a club member, right? So now if you hover, see this, it's showing me a mode. The mode is a dominant value that falls into this node right here, right? It's a dominant value. Now I can continue, right? So this is a second splitting criteria. On the other hand, this node here might have a different criteria. It might have a different criteria, right? So anyway, what you need to do is you need to traverse all the way down the tree until you reach the leaf node. This is called the leaf node, right? And when you hover, it's showing you that at risk is a dominant. It's going to show you the dominant value. But now here you can toggle a different view. Well, at this point you only have at risk, not at risk. But what I just did would be really helpful when you have more than one value. When you have a categorical target variable with more than one value. In addition to seeing what's dominant, I want to see the percentages, right? I want to know, see this, if I hover over this node, I want to see the percentage of students at risk and not at risk that fall into this node. And here I see the total. This is 72 out of total number of students. That's what it means. And in fact, for each node, I can hover like this, and I can get my numbers, right? While if I turn this off, I don't get the numbers. I only get information on what's the mode, what's the dominant value, right? So just remember these functionalities, and you can use plus and minus to navigate. So now I'm gonna rename it as risk model. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna save it, and we're gonna look at the decision tree. Oh yes, analysis. Since this is a categorical target, you're going to have, and it's okay if it's not gonna make sense at the moment, but it will make sense at the time when you get to it later. So here it's just telling me what it did, how it built the tree. So the predictor importance is absences, apparently. See this? It shows me the most important predictors of risk. Absences, club membership, right? So this is the most important predictors, and I scroll down. This is called the confusion matrix. So what it's doing here, it's looking at number of students predicted at risk that are actually at risk, at risk that are actually, number of how many students are actually at risk but were predicted as not at risk, and so on. I can use this table to determine how accurate my model is. Look here, at risk, actual at risk, predicted at risk, actual not at risk, predicted not at risk. Look at it. Notice that the correct predictions lie on this diagonal. So if I add these numbers on the diagonal and divide by the sum of all numbers, I get my classification accuracy. Well, it will make more sense when you get to it, and I promise that you're gonna have the slide after this presentation, and I have a slide that explains how this is calculated. I have a slide with explanation. Alright, so now let's look at the numeric target variable, and I'm going to look at the GPA. Right, so GPA. Well, I could just say what drives, well, okay, and this is, I want to look at this. What is my model for the GPA? Here, we need to understand that the variable is going to be numeric, so we're not going to have the distinct categories. Instead, we're going to have the profile and the average GPA of students who fall into that profile. So now it's still computing, right? Basically, this is the main difference, is that you're not going to see the discrete values where we at risk or not at risk. Instead, see this? The predicted value is 0.4, right? And here it's showing me that people, this is a class rank, and this is a number of AP tests passed and a class size. And here it's showing me the number of records in a data set that fall into this category. So here is another category, right? So I'm looking rather at the average and see what makes my GPA drop. Well, for some reason, I don't see the absences here, but I see at risk. But anyway, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the tree here. Alright, so that's going to be something different. The darker color code means that the GPA is above average. The lighter color code means below average. So this is my root node, right? And you follow the similar approach to read the tree, right? So you have to get to the root node. Oops. See, first you need to minimize, right? You can collapse, you can minimize the branches. See this is all records. It's first looking at the class rank. And based on the class rank, I go to this node, this node, this node. This unusually low. So see this looks like this is my GPA. So for some reason, see this is a profile of people, right, who have unusually low GPA. Well, this is what I see according to the model. Now I click here. See this? I get an average GPA for students who fall into this node. I get the deviation and I get the number of records, and this is a percentage of total records. And I keep on going, right? Now, here it is. I see unusually low, unusually high, right? I can toggle to see the different information. See this? I can see the average instead. I can see the deviation and number of records. This is what I could do, right? I can just toggle the view. But make sure that you understand the difference for numeric and categoric targets. And another difference that if you click on analysis, there should be no confusion matrix, okay? You get different statistics. When the target variable is numeric, you get different statistics. Just remember that, right? So let's go ahead and save it. And also, something else to remember, this. So here is my visualization. What I can do is, I can change the format. Well, it might sound trivial, but sometimes they trick you on a test. Trust me. So, what you could do is, for each visualization, you can change the variations, right? Like, you can do it unstacked, or you can do stacked, right? So you can change the variation, you can change colors, you can change the numbering, and you can change what you want to show and hide, right? You can change the details. Ultimately here, look, I can click on risk. and I can check a different column, right? I can change my visualization like that just by clicking and selecting, right? I could also filter, but if I filter, it will apply to these visualizations. Oh, I'm sorry, rather it will apply to the whole workbook. It will in fact apply to the whole workbook if I make this change. Remember, if I make a change in the display, it will apply, not display, discovery. This is a discovery. If I make a change in the discovery, the change will be applicable to the whole discovery, right? If I filter something, it's supposed to filter all workbooks, all tabs, right? Like if I do this, right, it's supposed to apply this filter here too. Well, this is how it should work according to the correct answer. Hint, hint. Alright, so let me clear this and let me save this. And for your second assignment, I believe, well, third assignment in the course, you will need to build a model where the target variable is numeric and target variable is categorical. In this case, I got lucky because I have a data set where I can pick categorical target risk and the GPA is numeric target. Well, sometimes it's possible to use the same data set and do what I just did. Sometimes it's not. So it depends on the data, but this specific data set, yes. And I could also predict the cost if I wanted to. That's another option. Anyhow, let's go back to the landing page, and I need to show you how to present our findings. So remember, data, discover, display. We are on the display now. Display. To create a new display, I go click on new display. And I'm gonna say risk visualization. For today, we are going to stay with dashboards. Next class, I'll show you the infographics and expert storybook. You have another class in 4 weeks. Alright, so we're staying with the dashboard for today, and I'm gonna click on create. There are a few important key points here. Now I can select a layout, and I'm going to select this, like this, intentionally. 4. Now, look, I have just one tab at the moment. What I could do here is I can create a brand new discovery on the fly, or I can use my existing discovery. Remember this, if I create a brand new discovery on the fly, it will not be available in the Discovery tab. It will not be available in the Discovery tab. It will be available only on this display. If I create something on the fly, it will be available only on this display. And, okay, let's save this. The issue is, what if I want to reuse it, right? If I want my discovery, if I want my discoveries to be reusable, you want to do what we just did, right? You want to do what we just did here, right? So now let's go back to my display that I was just showing. Let's go back to display, but for a moment, take a look at this. How many discoveries I have? Just one. I have just one, right? Alright, let's go back to my display. You can do it just by going to display tab and clicking on it. Or, ultimately, take a look at this. You have this open, right? So I can go ahead and I can do this. I can click on it to return. Now, let's do this. I'll show you something. Let's go back to personal. Look, this is the discovery I was just looking at. I click on the arrow to expand my tabs. What's going on? See this? Yelena did not name it. Untitled. But what if I didn't name this tab as well? I would get confused, right? I would not know which model I did for risk and which model I did for the GPA, right? So you want to make sure that you name each tab. So is this, and even if your display had only, even if your discovery had only one tab, you still have to expand it. And now, look at what I'm gonna do. Watch. I'm gonna select it and I'm going to drag and drop, but when I drop it, I want the cursor to line up with the blue arrow. This is what happens, right? I want this to line up. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to do another one. Drop it here, right? So I've got two. Now, look, what I'll do here, I'm gonna add another tab. I like this. And let me drag and drop these three here. Right? So I've got what, two tabs now, right? I'm going to add another tab. And on this one, I'm going to create visualization on the fly. Right? To do that, what I do is I click New Discovery, and, well, I'm just going to pick my dataset now. Do I have to use the same dataset? No, I don't, but I will. Right now I will. But the answer is I don't have to use the same dataset. Alright? Now let's do this. And, well, I'm just going to select anything. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna select maps. I'm just gonna select a map, but I'm doing it for some reason. Let's minimize it. Alright. So, I've got three tabs. 1, 2, 3. Right? Now, filters. There are three types of filters. One filter will apply to all tabs, right? So whatever I define here will be applicable to all three tabs. This tab, it will apply only to the current tab. And you can apply the filter to visualization itself. Pay attention to vocabulary. Vocabulary here is important. Look, I click here, right? When I click on this corner right here, it takes visualization into a focus mode. This is called a focus mode. And when I click here, while I am in a focus mode, I see the data tray. So, I could, if I wanted to, go ahead and add my calculations here, at this level, yeah. And I could format my visualization here. I have all of these options available. And I can look at the analysis, and I can even change visualization type. I can filter it. If I filter this specific visualization while I'm in a focus mode, the filter will apply only to this specific visualization. Look, let's go ahead and actually do this. See this, the student health. Oops, I can go ahead and filter it by health. Well, I want to look at the good health only, right? Good. I just selected good, and that's it, right? So, it only filtered this specific visualization. So now it's trying to update. I'm going to minimize this. This is how you exit the focus mode. Vocabulary is important, right? Enter the focus mode just by clicking here, and exiting to click it back, right? Now, this filter that I just created will apply only to this visualization at this tab. It will not apply to this tab. It will not apply to this tab, right? Only one visualization. Remember that. So now what else I could do is I can define a filter at the tab level. For example, well, to do that, I would have to click on the filters. When I click on the filters, it's going to give me the list of fields, right, in my data. Well, right now I see an exclamation point. It means that there is an error. And I would have to look at my data and figure out what's going on. But anyways, let's do this. Now, gender. I want to filter this tab by gender. Oops. Okay, so I have to do this. I have to drag and drop, right? And if it's not cooperating, what you can do is, well, this is too clear, right? But to do this, you have to click and then you have to drag and drop. Well, for some reason, I have an error right now, so it's not cooperating. But in general, what you have to do is, you can just drag and drop. This is how you add the filter, right? Oh, let's try this. See this? If I click here, I can close this area, I can open this area. See this more info. Let's take a look at this here. More info. We are sorry, something went wrong. Oh, you just have to refresh. That's what it's doing. Sometimes it's not refreshing. Sometimes it's reading from cache. So let's try this. Let's try to exit this. Let's try to, well, I don't want to close it because I did not save it. See this? I did not save my visualization. There we go. So now, guys, remember what I just did, right? If you see this error when you're working, you want to go back to the landing page and then reopen. You want to go back to the landing page and reopen visualization. But for right now, I could go and just undo the filter if I want to, right? I can undo the filter. But let's minimize. Alright, so now what I want you to remember that 3 ways to filter. All tabs, this tab, and put visualization in a focus mode. But when I click on filter here, I should be able to do this. Oh, there we go. It listened to me. State, right? But I don't want the state. Well, I can just do this. I can change it. I can do, oh, here, take a look at this. New York. But this is only one value. It does not make sense, right? It doesn't really make sense. So, see this? I can delete the filter because state does not make sense to me. I want county rather, right? So I want my county, but I want only this tab. I want to filter by county, and I want only this tab. And edit filter values. Take a look. Edit filter values, and I'm going to select which counties I want. I want only one county, right? That's it. So now, take a look what's happening. I'm filtering only this tab, right? I have a map right here, and on a map, I'm showing all counties. Well, when this is refreshed, you will see that my data is supposed to still show all counties. Why is that? Did not Yelena just filter by county? Why do I still see all counties? Well, because Yelena put a filter only on the first tab. See this? I only put a filter on the first tab. It does not apply to the third tab. Okay? The third tab still has all counties. Now what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to, let's see if it lets me do this. Uh-oh, you cannot do this, right? Well, okay, I can delete this, and I can do, oops, I want county, and I can do here, all tabs. Now, let me do this. Oops, I forgot to select the value. I forgot to do that. But anyway, do you see this? Does not matter what tab I click on, I see this filter, right? Now, let's do this quickly. Oh, I can edit filter values, and I'm gonna do just one county. Just one. And then, when I return to my third tab, the data should be filtered. It should be filtered by county. It's still refreshing. See this? See this? See what happened? Do you see the difference? All tabs, it means that the filter that I added will apply to every single tab, right? I picked the map on purpose because it's easier to illustrate what's happening. It's much easier when I pick a map and when I pick only one county here. See this? Now, if I click here, edit filter values, if I add another county, it will update all tabs. See this? Now I've got 2 counties, right? And we're going to look at maps in more details in the next class. I promise I'll show you more. But take a look at this. If I hover, I can still see the information for the county. I can still see, right? Another thing is that edit mode and view mode. See these eyeglasses? Right now the visualization is in edit mode. It means that I can make changes, right? So let's save it first. And now if I click on the glasses, I'm in the view mode. The view mode, I cannot make any changes. I can only view it. Here, when I click here, very important, I can download my visualization and I can share it via email. Very important. When I email my visualization, the recipient must be a Watson Analytics user. The recipient of the email must be another Watson Analytics user. Just keep that in mind. Alright? So, now earlier I mentioned the help. This is the help. I click on the question mark and it will take me to the very useful help menu. This is excellent. I can just click and I can just open data. I'm opening the new tab and I can go through and read this. There are different videos and so on, and they have been doing an excellent job with keeping this up to date. This documentation is very up to date. Alright, so now let's go back to the slides, because, well, you may notice that sometimes I repeat something, but I'm doing it for a reason. Right? So make sure that you remember the differences between categorical and numeric data groups. Right? And earlier I mentioned hierarchy. Right? Earlier I mentioned the hierarchy. Remember that the hierarchy can be identified by Watson Analytics, or it can be created by you, and it allows you to drill down the data. Like you saw, did you see the map, right? You just saw the map. What I could do is, I could right click on it, and I could go up. This will give me, it will show me the data for the whole state, right? This will show me the data for the whole state. Ultimately, I can go down, and it will show me the data by the county back. I can have several layers in a hierarchy, right? So if I was looking at the whole map of the whole world, right, then I could go, if I had data for all countries from all over the world, then I could go up by the country. So this is, so make sure that you remember it. Now, important, and not just for the test, for the work that you're gonna do. And I put this picture intentionally. There is no recycle bin. When you delete something, you have to say goodbye. When you delete something, you have to say goodbye. You cannot recover it. There is no way to undo it. Right? Here, I summarized about asking questions. Right? And remember the places where you can ask your questions, right? And there is one more. I did not show you one more. Let's go back here. If you are on this page, the discovery, you can click on new discovery. You can click on new discovery, and you can select the data set here, right? You can do that, and then click OK, and then ask the questions. That's another way. If you do that, you are asking questions only on the data set that you selected, right? So depending on how you ask questions. Now, one more thing. Take a look at this. When I created the display, I had a map, right? Didn't I? Where is it? Where is it? Why is it not here? Think about it. My map is not here because how did I edit it to the display? I edited on the fly. I did not explicitly go to the Discovery tab and create that visualization. I did not do that, right? Instead, this is what I did. See this? I go to the display here, right? On my display, okay, I'm going to the edit mode. Take a look at what I did. I selected new discovery. So if I want my discovery to be available for other visualizations that I can do going forward, I'm not going to do this, right? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to create my discovery on the Discovery tab instead. Now, another thing is you want to get into a good habit of saving stuff, right? This is very important. You want to save stuff because you might end up losing the work, and you don't want this. Here, I just put some tips on how to ask more questions and the different question types, right? So if you are in Discovery, okay, there is sometimes we're not sure how to actually phrase a question. So what we could do, well, let's go to the data. Rich student refined. Take a look at what I'm showing. Sometimes I'm not sure how should I phrase my question. So what I could do is I could click here, how to ask the question, and here Watson Analytics is giving me some hint. What is a breakdown? What are the top? And so on, right? And so on. I can do the aggregations. And so in the next class, I'm going to show you more visualization types. So now let's close this out. And since we were looking at the display, well, you might think it's trivial, but, well, oops, take a look at this. In the display, in addition to adding visualizations, you have the widgets. You can add the widgets. And in the slides, I think I spelled out which widgets can be added. The text, right? So if you get a question about the available widgets, there are text, then you have the images. Well, but it's not actually an image, it's a link to location where an image is. And you can add the media, and you can add the web page. I believe it's a URL. So remember that part, right? Well, sometimes it sounds easy, but sometimes we forget the easy stuff, right? So we got that. We looked at the target variables, right? So I summarized it for you. I put a nice summary here. So what you want to do is, after this, you want to review the slides and you want to listen to the recording. Even if you were able to attend, you want to read through the slides here that I put for you, right? And how to read the rules and how to tackle between the rules view and the tree view, right? So here I'm just showing you the decision tree different options, and I summarize you the options, how you can see the actual numbers, right? You can see the actual averages, or you can see above average or below average. Now, this slide, remember that it exists. When you are ready to work on your assignment 3, trust me, you may want to look back at the slides. When you're working on your assignment 3, you may want to return and look at this slide. Right? There are different types of displays, and I showed you how to create one, right? On the next class, I'll go over the differences between dashboards and infographics, right? So basically, dashboard has multiple tabs, infographic does not. It has one tab. And we'll look at the storybooks in the next class. Now, what I did here, I spelled this out for you. And I explained how you can add the discoveries, right? You can add existing, you can create a new one, but if I do new one, it will not be available for other displays that I create. Now remember that you can toggle between view mode and edit mode, and if you want to share the visualization via email, the recipient must be, in this case, the recipient must be a member of my subscription. So, for instance, if I am a member, you can email it to me, but you won't be able to email it to my mother, perhaps, because she's not a member of my subscription, right? So here, I'm trying to show you the focus mode. See this? You can click here to edit visualizations, means you can change the property. You're entering the focus mode. See this? So here, I summarize the difference between the filters. The filter types, all tab, one tab, and earlier today I used the count as an example, just to make it easier. Here I'm explaining the modes in more details, right? Focus mode and so on. And I'm explaining what's available for you on the display landing page, right? So you can just, So here, this is another example of what not to do. You don't want to say to the root folder. You don't want to say to the root of shared folder because Elena will delete it. Now, important, maintenance. Watson Analytics web page, they constantly keep on enhancing, adding new functionality. So there are times when application is not available. And this is a page here. And I can tell you that on Friday night, plan not to use the application between 8 p.m. and 12 a.m. Friday night, 8 p.m., 12 a.m. This is a maintenance window, so I encourage you to plan accordingly and not to use the application at that time. This URL here, it tells you which browsers are supported. You want to make sure you're using supported browser. This is a very good discussion forum. So you can, when you have a question, you can see if somebody else posted the question. You can post even your own questions, or you can answer somebody's question. You're gonna like this page. It's a learning center, so it's a set of videos. Somebody put it together. And then I put a bunch of useful links for you. Some of them may or may not be in the classroom, I'm not sure, but well, here it is, yeah. So here are some useful use cases. Some of them may have been added recently, so because the course content was prepared at some point in January or November, something like that, yeah. No, yeah. Anyhow, so let's go ahead and take a look at the descriptions. I need to show you where the dataset descriptions are in the course content. I'm looking at the last semester location. Oops. I'm looking at the last semester, but you have the same structure in this semester. So here it is. Okay, so this is what I did here. I created a bookmark, and I'll show you. I'm going to show you something really quick, and it's going to save you hours, if not days. Okay, so look at this. This is a page here, and the structure has not changed, I'm sure. There is a page in the course content. It's under the course resources, dataset links, and there is this page. It's called Data in Watson Analytics Shared Folder. So do you remember I showed you the folder earlier today? So on that page in the classroom, I have links to the dataset description, and it's for all data here in this shared folder. See this? For each dataset, I added the link to the web page where the source is. But take a look at this. I'm in the course content. This is a very nice feature of Leo. Look, I'm in the course content. I'm gonna go to the course resources, right? And I'm gonna go to the dataset links, right? So what I could do is, see, this is a web page, right? Data in Watson Analytics shared folder. Take a look. This file is in HTML format. At the top right, I have an option to bookmark it. See this? I can remove bookmark and I can add a bookmark. If there is a web page in the classroom that you think is important, here is where you can bookmark it. Now, very easy. I go to content. Watch what's gonna happen. In the left panel, I have bookmarks. Very easy. See this? I see the page that I found important for me. When I click on this, it will take me to the location in the course content where this page is. So take advantage of this, because sometimes your instructor posted something important, right? So tomorrow you don't want to be looking for it. What you want to do is you want to go back to the content and bookmarks. Okay? So go ahead later today, some point, go find that page with the dataset descriptions and make a bookmark for yourself, right? So it will be available for you. And here are the links to the sources where I took this data from. And it's located, the folder is inside the shared. You click on the shared to expand, right? And this is where the files are. And for each of these data sets, I put a link. Right? There we go. So now I'm going to ask if there are any questions. I know I talked for a long time. Well, it's a lot of material to cover because you have to do 2 assignments and then you have the test to take. You're going to pass, right? So are there any questions? Well, if there are no questions, then Elena starts asking questions, right? Okay, well, let me look at the chat. I have to look at the chat. Oh, okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. Class, are there any questions? Yes. Where can we find more information? Okay, let me open up the chat. Okay, where can we find more information on confusion matrix? When the time comes, there might be some materials in the classroom. But in general, you can find more information in any of the statistics books, data mining books. But I'm sure that by the time you hit the topic, there are going to be materials on the confusion matrix in the classroom. Well, I would need to check with instructor, but in general, it's a tabulation. It shows you the actual class versus predicted class. And trust me, in the upcoming courses, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to deal with confusion matrices a lot. Trust me. Oh, yes, almost forgot. How many lines of code did I write today? Did anybody count? How many were in there? 1,000? 1 million? Oh, 0. Excellent, excellent. So somebody volunteered, somebody helped me. Excellent, 0. So, this is very straightforward, right? The more you play with the applications, the more comfortable you get with it, right? It's a matter of exploring every single available option, right? So what you're gonna do is, if you haven't had the chance to accept your invitation, go ahead and do that. And I have a track, and I can track who has not who did. Okay, what is it? Is there a way to customize different and sharing? Okay. To share your visualization, the question is if it's possible to share the visualizations, right? Well, reports. Well, this software is not doing the reporting, but if you're asking if it's possible to share visualization with recipients, yes and no. The recipient must be a member of this subscription. Another way you can share is you can just download the images and just email. You can just download. There are no triggers. Well, there is no. Oh, I see. The question is if there is a schedule of when the reports are delivered. Well, no. There are no reports on this software. There are no reports. However, you may still schedule the data load, but this is very advanced. You can pull data from the database, and you can schedule the time when you want the load to happen, but this is advanced. We're not gonna do it, right? We're not gonna do the reporting, right? So there is no live report. And if you want to share data from here, it has to be the recipient must be a member of the subscription, right? Are there any more questions? I love questions. Questions are great, right? So, and yes, if you're running into technical difficulties, yeah, sometimes there might be occasions when you may need to contact me, because if it has to do with permissions or anything like that, yeah. Because I'm an account administrator. Right now, at this moment, to show the presentation, I'm not using the admin account, but usually I log in as an admin to create your account and to check if you were able to activate, accept your invite, and so on. Yeah. So do you have any other questions? Questions? Steve, is there anything that I should have said but I did not?
No, as always, I think you've been very thorough, and I'm glad we recorded it. There's a lot of information here that, as you said, they may have to refer back to for subsequent assignments. So, again, very well done. I see another question just showed up. What is the difference between IBM Cognos and Watson Reports? I think it means Watson Analytics.
Oh, well, we are not doing the actual reports. Like, we are not actually writing the queries here. We are not writing any code. We are not doing the select statements from the database. What we are doing is just the visualizations. I hope I answered the question. We are not using the Watson, what's it called, the Cognos. If you look at the help system, this is the. If you look at the Watson Analytics community, there are different products, but for us, we only use the Watson Analytics. This is not a reporting. This is not a reporting software. But I see what you mean by reports. But we're not doing any reporting here, like based on the queries and so on. We're not doing it.
Here's another question, Yelena.
Yes.
Are there two kinds of data sets, training and test data?
Yeah, but here, see, this is a very good question when there will be a discussion. There will be a week when you're going to have a discussion question on what would you like to see improved, something like that. Usually, in general, when you build a model, you use the trained data to build the model and the test data to validate the model, right? We don't have this in Watson Analytics, unfortunately. We do not have this. But in general, yeah, when I build the decision tree model, I want to use the test data because the decision tree is prone to overfitting, right? So you want to have the training data and test data, but unfortunately not in Watson Analytics. This is excellent question, and that's something you may want to mention when you get the discussion question. What would you like to have added to Watson Analytics? And this is something to note, that I wish I could evaluate my model on the test data. Very good. Yeah. Any other questions? Did I answer it, Steve?
Yes, that's exactly right. They'll have plenty of opportunities with other software downstream, but that is one of the features that several of us have wished for a few years now, a couple of years. And whether they're doing some of that behind the scenes and all is somewhat obscured, but hopefully that will be something they may consider adding in the future, as well as different kinds of models besides decision trees.
Yes.
But they will have plenty of opportunities to use other things in the future too.
Yeah. In data 630, it's an R. You'll do that. In the R, you're gonna do the test set and training set. Trust me, it's coming. Yeah. So anything else I may have missed or anything I may have overlooked? Any other questions that? No?
I don't see any more. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and of course I will send this to the link to the recording to the professors for the sections who will post it, and Yelena will send me or them or both of us the copy of the slides, so you'll have that also. Okay. So thanks again, Yelena, and remember she'll be doing a second presentation for this class in the future for the display aspects that are not covered tonight, basically storyboards and so forth. So there'll be another opportunity. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.